All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a tournament I played here very recently. It was called the Citronelle Lineup. It was 2 rounds in one day. One round was on this course we're about to watch, which is Citronelle Municipal Park, and the second round was on the Mill Creek Golf Course. It was a temporary course that was set up the day before the tournament, so I got to play it once, and then I played it on this day for tournament day. And yeah, I'm also coming off of an injury coming into this tournament. My right index finger was really messed up for a few weeks. I had to have stitches and had to keep it still for a bit due to a bad cut. But right before this event, a couple days before, I got the stitches out. And while I still wasn't quite 100%, I felt pretty good, especially with forehands, to still be able to play. And so, yeah, that is basically what it is. I wasn't doing a lot of playing leading up to this event because of the injury, though. I basically wasn't able to practice very much until basically the day before, like the 2 days before the event. I got to practice a little bit, and also I was putting for like maybe a week beforehand. But all in all, I felt pretty close to 100% coming into the tournament. As far as being able to throw, was just more like the preparation wasn't there as much as I'd want to. But anyway, without further ado, let's hop into it. This is round one. This is the first hole that I played. If you want a full rundown of this course, I do have another video I did on the channel where I played around here a little bit back. But anyway, this is a downhill blind shot, and I just overturned this forehand. I kind of thought it would stable out a little bit sooner, and it just didn't. Just basically carried left the entire time. So as you can see, I am in a whole lot of trouble. But I am able to pitch out and give myself at least a putt. First putt of the tournament. Pretty lengthy one. I'm able to get it. So start with the par. Very next hole. Kind of a dog leg left. Just want to kind of ride straight for a bit, then, skip left. And pretty good throw here. I just didn't get as big of a flare left as I wanted. It kind of skipped more straight. And so it left me a pretty lengthy putt since I didn't really get that flare left that I wanted. And I mean, I gave it a good bid. Just not quite, so I tapped that in. So now I'm par. And yeah, we're kind of skipping a few holes here. Otherwise, this video would be really long. I didn't just select all my best shots, though. You'll definitely see some hiccups here and there, but I did want to kind of condense this down. So we're skipping a few holes. For the most part, I've been parring the majority of the holes I've played. I think maybe I've gotten one bogey at this point, so I think I might be like 1 over par or something for the round at this point in time. And so just an uphill shot. Pretty solid little forehand there. Put myself pretty much right next to the basket. So this was my first birdie of the tournament after pretty much parring everything and having, I think, 1 bogey. So now I think I'm probably back to even at this point. Then this is the hole before this I parred as well. So now we're on hole 14. Again, I'm still probably in that kind of 1 over par range or so at this point. And this shot looked really good out of my hand. And as you can see, it looks like it flies right over the top of the basket right in front of it. But as you can see, there's this little slope here. And I'm pretty sure I hit somewhere here and then rolled down. So unfortunately, I was nowhere near the basket for a birdie putt. And I just kind of laid up because there is a road behind the basket that would have been OB. Very next hole here after taking a par on that hole. This is probably one of the hardest holes in the course. Very long par 4. And I throw this forehand perfect. Because you want to be close to the road. That way you're not in any trees or anything like that, so you can have an open look at the basket. But again, this road plays as OB. The basket's over here. You can kind of see it. So I'm just trying to throw a slight turnover backhand that eventually fades back. And here it is. And as you can see, this looks absolutely beautiful. And, ugh. And I'm pretty sure I hit the basket on this hole, as you hear me kind of exclaim. If you look right there, we kind of heard like a faint metal noise. And so I think I kind of skimmed the basket a bit. But unfortunately, I skipped. And so with this being a par 4, if I would have had more height on that, that could have been the eagle. But now I'm left with this. I don't even have a way to get my birdie. So this was a really disappointing hole. I felt like I executed it pretty well. Yeah, I threw my approach shot a little too hard. Had a little too much juice on it, but to wind up not having anything for birdie after a really good drive and a really good approach shot was pretty rough. So this very next hole, hole 16, this is another par 4. Just kind of want to throw something straight that maybe goes a bit to the right to set up the approach shot. And I mean, the shot flew pretty much exactly the way I wanted to. Got that slight right turn out of it, then faded back left. you know, got up the fairways a pretty good bit. Basket's over here to the left, far left of the screen, just trying to throw something that's going to go straight for a bit, then hyzer left. Bit of a headwind, though, and so this disc wound up not really hyzering as much as I thought. I swung out a little wide as well and just didn't get really any ground action, so I wound up being deep. As you can see here, I'm deep and just way right. So I had more than enough distance, but I needed more hyzer, didn't get it, and so I just kind of have to pitch up there and take a par on that hole. Then 17, I want to say I also parred. So now we're on hole 18. This is another par 4. Just throw like a big flex forehand. Worth noting, it's a very windy day. And in most of the holes at this course, it wasn't noticeable because we're in the woods. But there was a few holes where it was a bit more open. And so definitely a lot of headwind and tailwind to deal with throughout the day, depending on where I was at. So this is my approach shot. Have a bit of a headwind here. I kind of turned the volume down so you wouldn't hear just the whole time. But yeah, that just overflipped my forehand. The headwind just caught that, flipped it more than I wanted it to, so I just went way wider than I had hoped. I still got myself edge of circle 1, but I was expecting to be probably about 10 feet closer to the basket, but the wind kind of messed that up. And then low putt, so that's going to be another par. Now we're on the very next hole, hole 1. A tough shot. Basket's kind of middle of the screen, but downhill to the right. There's not too many gaps, so the flex forehand's a pretty good one. And this one went about the way I wanted to. It turned a little bit more left than I had wanted to, but I wound up getting just the most ridiculous roll down the hill, which was very fortunate. So it kind of made up for the wind issues to get that favorable of a roll. And so we get that. And here's hole 2. You can't really see the basket, but essentially it's kind of tucked back here around the corner. So you just got to throw something straight that hyzers left. There is water over here, though, so you got to be careful. And I mean, I execute the shot perfectly. Nice hyzer shot. Land right next to the basket. So here I am for birdie, probably 8 to 10 feet away. And I can laugh now. But the pain I felt at the moment was grim. I mean, I don't even know what happened. I just yanked it right. Just straight air ball, no chains. Just unbelievable. And this was like, we'll explain this later, but this meant a decent bit. No way. Yeah, it happened. Yes way. And so that's the end of that round. That's the end of that round at the Citronelle course. I wound up shooting 2 over par at that course. I probably could have shot even if I wouldn't have made the mistake on that putt you just saw. And then after that happened, I had 1 more hole to play after that, or 2 more holes to play after that, and I ruined both of those holes. I couldn't get out of my own head after missing that putt. I wound up missing a very similar putt that looked just like that the very next hole. Or no, 2 holes later. I basically did the same thing for a bogey instead of a par. And so, yeah, just nightmare situation there. So I'm going 2 over on that round. And so I'm on lead card going into the second round now at the Mill Creek Golf Course. I was 1 stroke away from second place. I was in third. I was 1 stroke from the second place player, and I was 5 strokes behind the leader. So here we go. We're at hole 11 at the Mill Creek Golf Course. Basket's basically about 325 to 330 feet over here on the left. Cart path's going to be out of bounds. Again, we're facing a lot of wind out here. Now it's even more prevalent because we're out in the open. And there's a lot of OB on this course, so I'll try to point that out on each hole. That hole, only the cart path was OB to the right of the basket, and I sunk a money putt there for birdie to kick off this round. And I wound up getting a stroke on the leader there, so now I was only 4 strokes behind the leader at this point. So feeling pretty good. Now this hole, I think it was exactly 300 feet from tee to basket. There is a sand bunker here that was OB. There's actually like 2 bunkers kind of over here to the left of the basket that were out of bounds. So the main thing was you had to make sure you swung right enough to avoid getting inside the bunker. That's really kind of the play here. And I'm just throwing a forehand because that's my best left to right moving shot. I'm not really good at the backhand turnover. And as you can see, I'm approaching this bunker, but I actually fly past it. So I was deep, and I didn't get in the bunker, so this is for birdie. Pretty lengthy putt, though, probably 35 foot or so, and just low. But that's okay. You know, I was just glad I didn't go in the bunker. Take the par there. Very next hole. So this hole, basket's downhill to the right, 350, but it's downhill, so it plays shorter than 350, of course. There was a path back here behind the basket to the right that was OB, and then this green over here to the left is out of bounds on this hole. Just got to swing a forehand out left and try to get close to the basket. And, man, I threw a pretty good shot here. You can kind of see it roll towards the basket. It kind of wound up rolling a good bit, so I wound up taking a par on that hole as well, so that was unfortunate. So now we're on hole 15. This one, it was... This whole green is out of bounds here. And then this flower pot area is also out of bounds. And then the cart path, obviously, if you went way left, is out of bounds. So, again, a lot of out of bounds to contend with. I was just trying to throw like a flat shot towards this blue flag and then have it crash left because that's what I was doing the day before when I was practicing the hole. But just kind of misjudged the wind, misjudged how much hyzer I needed to put on the disc, and so I wound up going in the flower bed early. And so I'm out of bounds. This putt you see here is for par. I'm trying to save the par. And no, low left. So I take a bogey on that hole. Next hole I also took a bogey. So now we're on hole 17. I'm probably about even par at this point, or roughly one or something. Basket's up here to the right. Only OB is this cart path. Tough uphill shot, honestly. Actually got decently close with this forehand, but I'm still outside circle one, probably about 40, 50 feet away. And just, I mean, an inch low. That was almost a birdie, really close. So now we're on the very next hole, hole 18. About a 400-foot par 3. This green was OB. But instead of trying to go for the gaps in the trees, I decided to avoid hitting any smaller gaps and just going wide left. Set up for the approach here. This path behind the basket also played as OB. Not this path here in front of the basket, but the path behind the basket played as OB. So I had to make sure that I didn't hit it too hard. So I just played like a low skip shot. And here I am for par. Again, no putts were gimmies on this day, no matter how close you were because of the wind. But here was still a decent tester. I mean, I was probably like 20 feet. Good putt, though. Got the par there. Very next hole, hole 1. Now, this one was wild, and there was a absolutely ripping headwind on this hole. I mean, just insane. So this cart path left as OB was really the only out of bounds I had to worry about in this hole. But it was just so scary because this was a par 4 downhill, but I think we were like 700 and something feet from the basket. We had a backup on this hole, and I watched 2 cards before me throw this hole, and everyone was just going way right into these trees and into these woods because everything that they threw would just turn hard right because of the headwind. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to throw one of my more overstable discs and just fight it. Not really get much distance, but just make sure I land in a good spot. And so that's what I did here, so I was pretty happy with that. Set myself up for the forehand in. I covered about 400 feet off the tee, so I had 200 and something feet to the pin. And, yeah, this is just a really good forehand. I got a very fortunate roll. I swung it a little bit wider left than I wanted, so I got a kind of fortunate roll, honestly. And now, yeah, I'm basically parked for birdie. I imagine there probably wasn't too many threes on this hole, especially in the amateur divisions, so this felt really good to get. Hole 2, I took a 4. I took a bogey. It was a very hard par 3, though. So now we're on hole 3. This is a par 3. Basically, this green I'm throwing over was OB, and there was an OB bunker next to the basket as well. Kind of a blind shot, sort of. You can see this basket here. That bunker to the left was OB. So I just tried to play out to the right to avoid the bunker coming into play. But, of course, it sets me up for a very lengthy putt. And, I mean, I didn't even really give that one a chance. Just kind of pitched up there and took a par. And now we're on the very next hole, hole 4, and it's a very scary hole. It was severely downhill, water all along the left-hand side. Cart path right is out of bounds as well. And it was very windy. Again, can't stress this enough. Super, super windy. And so I was like, I'm not even thinking about going for this hole. I think it was like a 400-foot shot, but very downhill. So not hard to reach, but I'm like, nah. I just threw a very overstable forehand and said, let me just keep my eye on the target the whole time. Stay away from the water left. Stay away from the cart path right. Just get center cut. Don't even worry about it. And as you can see, I just pitch up here, and not the best pitch up, honestly. Could have been a little bit better. But as you'll see here, I still have a chance to get my par. And there we go. Good putt. Very next hole. This was about 345. And baskets here. This green is going to be out of bounds. That was really the only out of bounds I think we're really facing on this. I think there was like a bunker over here on the right, but didn't really come into play. That was out of bounds as well. I'm just trying to play a wide hyzer like I did the day before in practice, but different wind. I swung this out. That was so wide. I really don't know why I did that. I just think maybe I thought this disc was going to swing more left than, I don't know. I swung this thing way right. We'll kind of look back at this again. Yeah, I mean, I needed to aim more over, like, maybe between these two trees, like where my cursor is, would have been a good aiming point. But as you can see, I'm way the heck over here. And then it keeps carrying right for longer. Like, it's going to this bush almost over here. Well, I needed to be more over here. So I just missed my line bad. Luckily, it was an overstable enough disc that it swung back. And luckily, I avoided the green. So we were only playing the innermost circle of the green as OB, not the fringe. And I got pin high. So, I mean, I got the 340 feet, but I was just way right now. I have a scary downhill putt. Almost. And luckily, I stayed, so I got the par there. Very next hole, hole 6. This was like a 400-and-something foot par 4. Again, super crazy headwind. You can kind of see this flag going nuts right here. I just decided to throw something overstable and out to the right. Kind of like I did on hole 1. Just don't really think too much about covering ground because it's a par 4. Just make sure I stay in the fairway and make sure I fight the headwind. And I don't, overturn it. Unfortunately, I kind of swung it out a little too inside. Or a little too overstable. Either way, I'm in this wood line. Very tough scramble shot, but I get it done. Able to pitch out, and so this is for birdie. And I get it done. Very next hole, hole 7. This is a par 3. The only wooded shot really on the course. Got this gap here, basket right here. I think it was like 250 to 275 away. And yeah, I just piered that. Really good throw. Easy tap in for birdie. And this is the next hole I went out of bounds off the tee. This is my putt for par. Ugh. 2 inches higher, I saved the par, but unfortunately I get a bogey on that hole. So now on the next one, hole 9. This is 360 to the basket. And I just threw this too high. Too high. And so I get caught up in the tree. And I'm also left with a pretty tricky approach because you can kind of see here, I got these in my way low, these in my way high. So I have like a little gap here I can kind of punch something through to try to get to the basket. And I execute it perfectly, skip up. And that sets me up for a pretty easy par. Now this is the last hole that we're playing. And at this point, it's worth noting that I pretty much knew that I wasn't going to win. The guy that was 5 strokes ahead of me, every time I would get a birdie and think I was getting a stroke on him, he would respond and tie me with a birdie of his own. Then he definitely parred a couple of holes that I bogeyed. And so we were fighting back and forth the whole time. But basically going into this hole, he had already thrown his shot. He was set up for the par. I was still 5 strokes behind. No way I'm catching this guy. And I pretty much knew I was going to get second place at this point as well. Just based on how the scoring was going, I kind of knew that I'm going to get second no matter what. I can't get first. And so with this hole, this was one of the most dangerous holes on the course because the basket's back here, but it's guarded by a bunker that's in front of it. So this bunker stretches from like this tree all the way over to the green. Then the green, if you get in the innermost circle, the green is also OB. This bunker to the right's OB. Anything to the right of this cart path is OB. There was also a cart path over here that wrapped behind the basket that was out of bounds. So there's just so much out of bounds on this hole. One of the more scary holes on the course because of the out of bounds if you're trying to attack this for birdie. Now, if you want, you could just lay up short of the bunker or the green somewhere here. Just throw it like 250, whatever, and then just pitch across and get your par. But I just kind of wanted to have some fun. It was like 360 to the basket, and it was uphill. And I was like, I'm just going to rip one. Last hole of the tournament, let's just rip one. And I ripped one. I ripped it good. Got a big rip on that. So here we can watch this again. Just decide to blast one. And boy, did I. Yanked it a little bit right. I kind of was aiming here when I threw. So I yanked it a little bit right of where I wanted, but it went. And so as you can see, I pretty much got all the distance. I was just way right. And so now I'm just kind of throwing a forehand pitch up across the green to the basket. And I pretty much execute that perfectly. Right under the basket, as you can see here. And tap in my par. And that's the show. And so essentially, I wound up shooting a 57. So I went even par. I think I was, 2 under on the front 9. And 2 over on the back 9. But we started on 11. So I started off with that birdie. Then had a sequence of pars. Had a bogey. Another bogey. Another bogey. So I had like 3 bogeys in a row here. This was a really bad stretch for me. Then I wound up parring out. And then we come back around. I get the birdie on hole 1. Bogey immediately, though. Then par out. Then I get back-to-back birdie. Actually, I get 3 birdies in a row here. This stretch, 5 through 7, I get that 3 birdies in a row. So that was a pretty good run right there to kind of score some back. And, so I wound up finishing in second place when it was all said and done. So, just talking a little bit here at the end as we go through some of my better shots in the background. Just wound up finishing second place in this tournament. So, I wound up actually winning some pretty cool stuff. I won, like, an $140 bag and then a couple of discs. So, I actually made, like, a pretty good profit, I guess you could say, so to speak, for the amount of money I spent to enter and then what I wound up winning. And this felt good because, obviously I had, not the greatest tournament, my first tournament of the year. And then I, also was just having some struggles with my game lately. Then I was not really getting to play a whole lot because of weather at one point, and then just being busy with esports at one point, and then obviously getting injured from like a bad cut on my index finger on my throwing hand, and that putting me out for a couple of weeks. And I mean, I'm still dealing with tournament pressure and tournament nerves and, keeping my composure when things start going badly and, being able to putt under pressure and just different things like that I'm still trying to learn and get better at. My form still needs work. My backhands are still kind of capped out at a certain distance. Though I will say at this tournament, I was throwing a little bit further than I normally do. Normally I kind of max out like maybe like around 340. And I had a couple of throws on this tournament that kind of hit that 360, 370 range. So I was getting a little bit better. I was getting a little bit more pop. Still have some work to do. I still really want to hit that 400 mark on distance, but little by little, I'm improving. And also, this is just a really fun tournament. It's not often you get to play disc golf on a golf course, and it's a different kind of disc golf a lot of the time. Some people find it kind of boring to watch, but it was a lot of fun to play. Obviously, the wind made it really crazy and difficult, but just had a really good time. Shout out to one of the local groups that ran this tournament. They're called Prime Suspects in the Mobile area. They do a lot of cool stuff, ace tosses and running tournaments, and just a really cool group of guys. They did a great job at this event. It was a lot of fun. The Citronelle courses are, definitely top notch. Kind of a little bit out of the beaten path, so to speak. Definitely had to travel ways to get to these courses from like the city and stuff, but definitely a blast. Definitely had a great time. And it was fun to finally get another video out on this channel from a tournament. I haven't really been able to do that in a while. I haven't really been able to get many videos out in general of me playing. It's been mostly just me doing vlogs and stuff like that. So was nice to be able to get something out there for you. Hopefully I'll have a couple of more tournaments coming up in the coming weeks. I think I have one tournament I'm going to play at the beginning of April, and then maybe another tournament in April, and then, of course, as the summer hits, there'll be some tournaments here and there. I'm trying to do at least one tournament a month, if not 2. It's kind of my goal, but it just depends on what's available in my area. And also, just looking to eventually get some more content going again with me just playing rounds. There are a couple of new courses I still haven't done a video on yet, so I'll be looking to try to get those done. We got a couple of new courses actually coming up in my area. So definitely going to go check those out and film those. And then a couple of courses just in the Southeast I still haven't hit yet that I'd like to, that I'll do some content on. And honestly, it's just about finding ways to do more consistent content, because a lot of my content has been me showing off courses, which has really helped out people who haven't seen them before. And that's kind of one of my goals, is just to put videos out that can help people, if they're preparing for a tournament or they just want to see what the courses are like in this area, to kind of give them something to look at. But yeah, I need to kind of find maybe some other ideas that way I can do content a little bit more consistently. Being able to reuse the same courses would be, really important. So maybe just like doing things like disc dice, like the mini game of disc golf, or, doing like duels against people, like match play or something like that. Or, there's other like little games and stuff that you can play, or maybe like bag swaps, or where I'm throwing someone else's bag and they're throwing my bag. Little things like that, are probably some things I'll probably work on. Nothing original, so to speak. It's something that a lot of other people do, but something I can add to my channel just to be able to keep the content flowing, even if I'm having to play the same courses again that I've already played on the channel. And yeah, I just, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for subscribing to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please do. The channel's actually been growing a pretty good amount. And yeah, also just keep on the lookout for me, hopefully doing some more disc golf commentary soon. Definitely going to be doing some more stuff with Disc Golf Pro Tour with that Scramble series that I've already kind of posted about here on the channel. So be on the lookout for more of that. And yeah, just thanks so much, and catch you next time.